closer, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah, because we have I'm used to having the wall behind you.
What you think? Hankook? Driving emotion? What is that?
I don't know.
Tire company.
I don't watch TV.
Driving emotion?
Tire company. Hankook is I think it's a Korean tire company.
I don't know. Is it good or bad that you know that? Did you know that?
I did, yeah.
Learn something.
What do they sell tires? I got a friend back home. You talk about things you know are always going to be a good business. Funeral homes, gas stations. Well, I don't know. That might go the other way. Who knows? What's something else? Air traffic controller. Anyway, what's new? Has that
All right.
always been black?
This?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, no, it's a new stanchion.
Right.
But it's been here for about 3 months. We got it about the midway point.
Why these flavors? Oh, they're blue and orange. Think of everything, Harold. You didn't think I was going to get that, did you, Ethan? I got the, it's called a dais. It's not called a podium, it's called a dais. No, it isn't. It's called something, a lectern. It's called a lectern.
Lectern.
Spell that. We had they had a spelling bee on the plane the other day with the rookies. I would be embarrassed. Like, who didn't win is the question. Then I asked them about spelling Coliseum, one of our valedictorians. You know how many valedictorians we have on this team? A lot.
May.
Hmm?
May.
He spelled Coliseum right.
It's not
It's a hard one. What's new? Huh? You spell it? Who- I don't know what school you went to. You went to school of 3, you got a chance. I had about 48, I think, must be in your class. What's new?
Steve.
Buck, when it comes to making the decision on Marte, is it going to be about if he can have any impact on the game or if he can have his full impact that we've seen when he's healthy this season?
Yeah, we'll take all the things into consideration. We have, you know.
See, apparently
Probably about the tire company. What did you say that kicked that off?
I have no idea. It happens way too often. Something that sounds like Siri.
We put the dogs to bed. My wife goes, what's the lady's name? Siri? No.
Alexa?
Alexa, play sleep music for the dogs. I know how they turn on now, but I don't have one of those. We'll take everything into play. You know, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. You know, he's one of the reasons why he was in demand, because he's a multi-skilled guy that can, help in a lot of ways. But, obviously at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we'll have it out there.
Tony?
Do you plan to set your entire rotation in advance, or will it depend on whether you win or lose game 1?
Well, because we haven't announced other than today, it'll have some bearing. It'll have some bearing. You're talking about just, obviously, for these 3
Not
games.
even necessarily to announce, but for what you guys are planning to do.
We know what we're planning to do, but some things are dictated by tomorrow night's game.
Some things meaning like the actual identity of the game 2 starter?
Right. The game 2 starter could be dictated by how we do tomorrow night. I think it could be similar to what San Diego's doing.
All right. Right down the line there, next to Tony.
Hi, Buck. What was it like watching Manny grow up, managing him? What was that relationship like, and what have you seen, given the early roots of that, the player he is today?
Well, I've known he and Yene for a long time, and I remember the first time I saw him. And then, we had day games. We had all our farm system clubs within 45 minutes, most of them except for AAA. And, my wife knew on Saturday or Sunday day games we were going to go over and watch. I think at that time he was in Aberdeen, and then had gotten to Frederick and Bowie. They're all right there, so got to see him a lot. But remember Brady Anderson going over and sitting on him for a few days to see if, thought he was ready to come up and help us at third base. We were kind of covertly working him out at third base at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I think he probably figured out what we were doing, but it's been real proud of him and his things he's turned into in a lot of ways. He's a good one.
And in the same vein, you've actually not just managed against Bob Melvin, you've managed Bob Melvin. So you guys have done this full timeline. What's it been like to know Bob in a couple of different
I'm very proud
ways?
of Bob. He's an outstanding manager and, well thought of and a challenge. He's always prepared and his team's always ready to play. Bob saved my job one day with the Yankees, I think, when I had a DH. I was looking for a right-handed DH against Randy Johnson. And yes, we did look at matchups back then. We did look at history, and he had a hit or two off of Randy, and that was good enough for me because one of my right-handed hitters, I think it was Leyritz, wasn't going to be able to play that day, so I think we were carrying 3 catchers at the time. And Bob got to DH, and I got a lot of communication to me that wasn't a real good idea from people other than the media. And I think Bob got a double or home run, I'm not sure, but it was a key blow. I know, I just didn't want to. Made my day. As it left the park, if I could have done some dance up the runway, which I think I did, it was very much like Randy Velarde when I was told not to play him and he hit a home run in Fenway. And one of the coaches caught me celebrating it because, I got to keep my job for another day. So thanks, Bob.
Dave?
Buck, but back to the rotation for a second. Obviously, the 3-game series is a new
Yeah, it's
twist.
hard. We kept trying to
twist
reach there for some. It's hard, to project it a little bit. It's different. I think someone told me in here how long it's been since someone actually did it.
But when you're looking at, like, you're going to base it on that, like you said, the first, whether you win or lose in game 1. You have to think ahead to the next round when you're thinking about this? I mean, I wouldn't call it a luxury that you can do that, but is that something that has to enter into your thinking just because of the short time frame and the number of games you're dealing
The
with?
focus is completely on tomorrow night's game, but, when you're doing rosters and stuff without jeopardizing being able to put your best foot forward in these 3 games, you do have to at least consider that. Everybody does, So the tiebreaker will always be what's best for these 3 games. But, we have people capable of pitching, and all through the rotation. One of the reasons we've been able to put together a pretty good year is that we've had some depth in our rotation.
Tim?
On that note, starting pitchers are often very routine-oriented and regimented people. How confident are you that DeGrom or Bassett can go, not necessarily knowing what day they're going to pitch at this point?
Oh, they know. They know. We talked about this a week ago, at least, and they've been aware for a long time where it falls. And it's like if you got rained out, would you be able to pitch the next day? They're faced with similar stuff, but they know the order, how it may fluctuate. But, it's kind of been a strength of our club is the guys don't let their ego get in the way of it. Tell me when I can contribute, and I will.
Tim over here on the right.
Was Marte able to swing a bat and throw a ball today?
Oh, yeah, he did it. He did it yesterday and the day before. But
And-
different forms of comfort level, the last few days.
What was the comfort level today?
Tomorrow, he's improving, little by little.
You guys are facing Yu Darvish tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You faced him a couple times this year. What do you remember from those games about what he did well and maybe what your team can do differently with the third try?
It's going to be it's going to be tough. He's one of the best pitchers in the game. That's what you're going to see from here on out. And kind of hit me the last 3 games here, reminded me of the quality of pitching we faced for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, we saw some really good pitching, and, you know, last 3 games wasn't at that level. So you're going to see another good one. The margin of error is very small. One, to beat him, you have to have a good starting effort by your guy. And, you know, runs are going to be a premium. When you get a chance to cash something, you need to try to push it across. But guys with great track records have games where, you know, they're not as good as they have been in the past. That's why we go watch the games, because what should happen doesn't always happen. We've seen that with some of our guys. So we'll find out. You know, a lot of, you know, really at times carry 6 pitches. But, you know, you understand their percentages and what he's thrown, and then all of a sudden you prepare for all this and it's completely the opposite. I've seen that happen many times. Happened a few days ago. Somebody went completely a different direction than what they've done. And we'll see. And you have to, you know, up here you have to make the adjustments on the fly. They'll throw a different look at you very quickly. You get a lot of input this time of year, and all through the year, especially analytically, from tendencies and this should, then all of a sudden you got something that's a real strength of a player, and you're asking them to go completely away from that strength. It's like the guy's first ball fastball hitter. Does that mean you throw him a breaking ball every time? No, you throw him a fastball a little bit off the plate and see if you can get weak contact. You know, use what you know to play to your strengths, and that's what I'm sure he's going to try to do.
Jake?
Biggest difference this year in the postseason, much fewer off days in between the games. How do you think that impacts your ability to bring guys back on short rest? How does it impact your bullpen specifically, and how do you think it's going to impact this postseason as a whole?
Well, like I said, right now it's about tomorrow night's game and impact. Every day, like we have all season long, we say, okay, we know that when we go into the game tomorrow, everybody's going to be available for the most part. We might have one that's not, you know, in different degrees of availability. So what you do is after each game, you sit back and you look at it and you understand this is not playing for the long game here. You're playing the short game. It's a whole different time of the year. So I think understanding the sense of urgency that each night brings is important. And you know, it's a different time of the year. But what did I not answer?
Do you think this structure is going to favor teams that have more pitching depth compared to previous seasons?
Well, if you're a wild card, not a divisional winner, that's pretty obvious. But I think pitching depth always plays, and there's always in these playoff situations somebody that you didn't think was going to be a force is, and there's a lot of riding a hot hand. But you know, the playoff format, I don't critique it and over-evaluate it. I do from a competitive standpoint, making sure we try to have a feel for what might be coming. But what you do a lot is say, what if? You better say, what if? If, you know, Max gets hit in the elbow with the second pitch of the game, where are you going? You got to ask those questions. So, and the roster that you end up with should have a little bit of flexibility, but also a sense of urgency. The guys that are real valuable are the guys that can do both. You know, can have multiple ability to do things short and long. But you know, the length of a start is looked at differently. The quality start, you know, it's not necessarily 7 innings anymore. If you look at some of the starts in the postseason, they're usually a break from what the expectations are.
All the way in the back.
Buck, obviously the guys played to get to this moment. Do you feel a need maybe to speak to some of the guys about not letting the moment and the games become too big?
Well, you know, we've had some moments, you know, similar that we have spoke about that, and you know, I don't know about need. There's a way to get certain things like that across without causing some alarm, because when you do too much of that, you think that that's a red flag, and you know, some of that's Captain Obvious that they go, you know, but with some of our kids, especially our younger guys, I think it's something that You know, I know you're not assuming we haven't already done that, so, you know. But you'd be surprised sometimes, it's not always just the players. You know, sometimes it's, you know, you try to keep as many things normal, whether it be an advanced meeting, whether, you know, you get all this information. We've had scouts out, you know, just like every team does, and you get this, you know, cascade of, not cascade, what's the word? A lot of information. Not that we don't have it, but now you got to be careful about what you give the players, because you can give them, you can overload. You know, Mattingly used to say, when are they going to play that song? You know, when's the game starts? God, can we just get there? And that's, I'm not saying it's comfortable, but at least you're in your element a little bit. You know how 9 innings works. And, you know, the players, they know it's important, and they know it's the first time that, you know, you could be going home if you don't win games. So, you know, I think they realize it. And I think that the one concept with this group is they've been very mature and very focused. And I think they know what's important and what's not. And they talk a lot among themselves about that. And I hear them. There's so many times this year I've started to think I might want or need to say something, and they say it. I mean, it started in the spring with Lindor. I mean, he beat me to the punch. But Pete, you know, I can't tell you how many times I've started to talk to them about something, that whatever, and, you know, I'll talk to Shabby, and he'll go, yeah, he was just talking about that yesterday in detail. Okay, so they're a very easy group to trust.
Joel.
Buck, 2 things if possible. Just so we're not kind of hinting and beating around the bush. If you win game 1, is the intention to start Bassett in game 2? If you lose game 1, is the intention to start DeGrom in game 2?
Well, I'm certainly not going to broadcast that today to the Padres if that is the case. But, you know, we'll see what post-game tomorrow brings.
The other question is, does the presence of a dominant lefty closer push you more to get Alvarez on the roster as an option late in the game?
Well, they could carry as many as 4 in their bullpen, too. But if you look at how they might be used, obviously it's all hands on deck and something like this. But it's certainly something I'm aware of, and something that has come up in the conversation about him and Darren. And there's nobody, I mean, you look at his track record, especially the number of bats he's had against the Padres and their staff. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, Darren's worked very hard the last 5 or 6 days. So we'll see where we are with all that tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
He has a chance to be in the roster.
Yes, he has a chance. Everybody here today has a chance. All God's children have a chance. They're all somebody's son. I keep reminding myself when I might get a little upset, I go, that's somebody's son.
Jerry?
Hey, Buck. Kind of piggyback on Russ's question. You know, how much different is the energy, both for you personally and collectively for the team, going into the postseason as opposed to the regular season? Francisco's talking about how much he loves the new gear they get and the excitement of seeing the new.
Which Francisco? We got 2 now.
True, Lindor. Sorry, I was talking about that.
The other one's excited about the new gear.
Yeah.
His mother, my sister sent me a picture of one of my sisters and Francisco Alvarez's mother in Atlanta. I guess they became friends. I think they might have had a cerveza together. What now?
But just, you know, what's the energy like? It's different, obviously. You know, how much different is it both for you personally and the guys?
Yeah, the guys that tried to act all cool, oh, it's just another, what if? No. Obviously, because of, but what's driving that? It's a sense of finality, a sense of, you know, first time. I tell you what I don't miss that I'm happy I haven't seen is a bunch of boxes in the locker room. That's always a sign in September that things aren't working out too well. They probably snuck a few in there because some of them need to get some boxes, get some of that equipment out of there. But no, you know, what's that George Carlin thing about stuff? You know, these guys get more stuff. You know, what do you need a bigger garage for more stuff? I need another closet for my stuff, you know. I don't. I put it over. If I get something, put it over there, and usually, I shouldn't say give it away because now I won't get any more stuff. You ever heard that that whole line, of the whole comedy routine?
It's great.
He's funny. It's a little crude sometimes, but aren't we all? Not me.
Abby?
Bob Melvin was just in here, and he talked about how you influenced him as a manager. As a bench player, he said you were the first manager to tell him when he would be playing, which allowed him to sort of prepare ahead of time. Is that still something that you do, and where does that sort of foundation or philosophy or tactic come from?
I think you always, the old expression, and you might remember this or whatever, but you always remember how somebody made you feel. You know, you always try to put yourself in a relief pitcher's shoes. You try to, you know, you got to pick their brain. You got to talk to them. Having been, you know, I've DH'd. I've been a guy that didn't necessarily start a game, and how, you know, what goes through their head. Because especially up here, those people are going to be instrumental in whether or not you win or lose a baseball game. Oh, it's not that important. All of a sudden, you need them to play for a week. But and you also don't want to overlook an orchid while searching for a rose. All of a sudden, you don't think Bob Melvin, all of a sudden he plays a few days ago, you know, maybe he's a little better. And so I think constantly putting yourself in their shoes and realizing how hard this is to play and to do, and just eliminating, try to think what they're thinking. You know, it's the unknown that usually drives players crazy. And if you're, it's tough to tell them the truth. I'm getting ready to have some tough conversations in here about people that maybe were with us all year that aren't on the roster. It's no fun. It's no fun. You know, that's why I tell Billy all the time, I said, please, when we deliver good news in the spring about, please, can I be a part of that too? So you get one of those for every 10 you get on the other side. But when you've been in their shoes, I always beat them to it. You know, I remember one time I was getting sent down from AAA, and I got there real early so that Johnny didn't. I walked up and said, John, you got something to talk to me about? I said, I got it. I'll see you. Thanks. He talked about it later. But I started coaching before they could release me. Beat them to it. Never got released. Remember the first time you had told somebody that there was somebody better at it than you? Think about it. The first time these players, someone says, okay, it's different. They haven't had that in their life. You're getting cut or you're not. We think there's a certain tact that it's not, you don't go into it that you're going to win that conversation. You go into it doing what's right.
Andy.
Buck, how much does DeGrom's blister play into the thought process of maybe not starting him in game 2?
It's part of the equation, but I don't think it's. I think by the time he pitches, it shouldn't be an issue.
So it's something I assume, is actively managing.
Yes. You know, if we detailed everything that these guys go through to get on top of, we would have a full state of, I do it to try to make it easier on y'all not having to write and dwell on and talk about it.
Thank you.
I do it awfully, so otherwise I don't tell you this guy's left toe has been bothering him. I don't know if he can push off, there are so many things like that with all 26 players that go on every day behind the scenes. One of the worst parts of my day is when Darth Vader, the trainer, walks in my office after everybody's done. I go, what do you got? And he goes, all good today. Okay, stop, leave. It's always something. Always something.
Buck, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Ya que nos copiaste, por favor, devuelve los créditos, que son gratis.